walking metropolis. You are a walking, how could I say it? You are a walking, living galaxy.
Yes.
You understand that? The Earth has approximately, what, 7 billion people on it, supposedly? Somewhere in that. The Earth has that. You have approximately 50 trillion cells that make up you. Now, do some of those cells go awry or become rebellious? Well, if you looked at your skin, if you looked at what's going on with you from the bacteria that's either in the air or the things that you touched, you would immediately get anxious, because what you would begin to see is bacteria and all things that, different things that you've got on your hands, and you wiping your nose, and you slobbering, and you this, that, and the other, and oh my God, what's going on? And, however, you have a system. It runs, it's basically based in your blood. Your blood is made up of 5 different types, I think they call them corpuscles, 5 different types of corpuscles, but especially the white corpuscles make up your immune system, and that is the most important aspect of your blood system. And it carries that immune system throughout your whole body, and it's there to aid in your health and well-being. And what we do constantly, by exposure, by the lack of disciplines, and by many, many other different things that happen to us, they happen by living life, is sometimes we have cells of this host of this galaxy you make up as the temple of God that become rebellious and get out of control. Now, for me, I can find them in Scripture. I'm sure a lot of people couldn't, but I can find them in Scripture. Years ago, I did a teaching on the Amorites, the Hittites, the Canaanites, the Jebusites, and the Hivites, etc., and all of the ites, and I began to show that the reason that there seems to be a angry God in the Old Testament, that's how it appears in most people's mind. God's mad in the Old Testament. Yeah. And then it took Jesus to calm him down or change his mind or whatever, appease him or please him, whichever word fits in your paradigm. It took Jesus to satisfy whatever that needed to be satisfied, and then everything is okay, as long as everybody accepts Jesus. And my problem with that always was, what about, and here again, this is just a what if, so it may not fit for you, but what about those people who never ever can have an opportunity to either hear what you call your salvation message, and since they didn't hear it, they're down? What kind of justification and or mercy or love would a father have to destroy his people that he created? And I could never, ever make that fit. I never could, ever, even from my early onset, even though I had an experience in a motel. And that experience was brought about by a very low place in my life. I was at a desperate place, and I don't think that's bad for anybody. I told a guy the other day in my shop, he was crying, his world had completely come apart, he's a drug addict, things are not going well for him. And I said, you're in the best place you've ever been in your life. Sorry. But what do you mean I'm in the best place? I said, you're in the best place you've ever been in your life. Many people's bottoms is really deep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's okay. If they can learn it's okay, because guess what? It's up from here. So where do people find that place? I don't know. And I am not a judge of anybody who is finding that place through the avenue of life they're living. I'm not their judge to say, you will find it. It will present itself many times. But what you do with it, when it comes, makes all the difference in the world. For me, when it comes to me, I was about 26 years old, and I could see my writing on the wall didn't look good, and I began to do some soul searching. I had a tremendous experience. I labeled that experience Jesus. In my research, I come to find out other people label their experience Krishna. And I began to question myself, what right do I have to say that my experience is valid and theirs is not valid because they named it different? that began to be, for me, something that was like a non-negotiable. That I could see that. So I had no problem. So some of the things that I will share with you, I realize are dealing with a paradigm that you've been taught. And again, I am trying to say that what we have learned from religion is a lie, and that's a difficult pill to swallow. And so John asked me a question about something, and I want to say, if you can think different, open your mind, and that would be difficult. I know it's difficult to open your mind to at least think a different thought. And so that's basically what I would say. What I'm trying to do is promote different thought. And if you can think it, okay. If you can't, that's okay too. So if you do have a Bible, if you don't, we have them. I like to use that. We have all kinds of them. Because it don't matter to me which one. It don't matter. I think there's a song about that.
Yes, there's a song about it.
There it is. Yeah. Mark chapter 1, if you go there with me, and I meant to bring a book. I didn't bring the book, but I'll just tell you, the name of the book is by Bill Darrellson. This book, I think he wrote this book about 8 years ago, 8 or 9 years ago. And it's about the four Gospels being based in the zodiacal system that they knew 2,000 years ago. That was commonplace. And so the four Gospels are basically, but not just the four Gospels, most writings, ancient writings, were based in what they call nature philosophy or perennial philosophy. Just simply had to do with the sun and its movement every day through the sky and every year. And everything was based on that. Simply because when you boil it all down, without the sun, sayonara.
Yeah.
Gone. You just ain't gonna be here. And not, at least not in this place, in this dimension. Maybe somewhere else doing something else. So, and that's good. Okay, Mark chapter 1. And I want to read this to you. And I really enjoyed this book by Darrellson, The Gospel and the Zodiac. That's the name. If I didn't tell you, the name of the book is The Gospel and the Zodiac. If you don't have that book, get that book. That's a really, really good book.
Yes.
And it will challenge you and bless you at the same time. I promise you it will. It's done very scholastically. He does a lot of research on, tells you where to do the research to validate the things that he says. So I like that. You know, for me, I like that. So he takes the Gospel of Mark and he really puts it in its zodiacal position, which really resonated with me, okay? And I think it will you if you look at it that way. Again, how many of you ever heard of Dr. Fuchsia Pickett? Dr. Fuchsia Pickett was one of my early on teachers 35 years ago. She had a college in Texas, outside of Dallas, a little town outside of Dallas, Canada. She had a really large, good, I think around 3,000 or 4,000 student college, and I became a part of her student accommodations, and she was a teacher and really impressed me. Her testimony was the most phenomenal of anything that I had ever heard. She was a 30s, 40s, and 50s Methodist preacher. And so and she told me, she said, Lynn, if you do not learn how to read symbols and signs, you will never learn how to read the Bible. She said, because the Bible is a symbols and signs book. And so, of course, she's dead. She's been dead for a long time. But Dr. Pickett really impressed me in that fashion. At that time, I had Dr. Pickett, who was really impressing me in a huge way, and also Finest Jennings Dake. And I have to tip my hat to Dake in honor. I was a student. Matter of fact, Dake personally signed my Bible. I don't carry. I can't carry it because it's really literally all to pieces because I studied it so much. But I got my first Bible from him, and he personally signed my Bible. So that's a relic, I guess, for the kids and the grandkids. I don't know. Anyway, first chapter of Mark, chapter 9 says, verse 9 says, and it came to pass in those days that Jesus And so what I would do, and I learned to do this early on, Jesus, or you can say what you want to, the human representation of God. So therefore, I can say Lynn, and it fits just as well.
Yes.
It's the same thing. Now, you might be offended by me doing that or saying, so you trying to compare yourself with Jesus? Yes. Because Jesus compares himself to me because he says, I am the Son of Man. And so that would be who I am in that respect. Jesus never calls himself the Son of God. Jesus always calls himself the Son of Man.
And
So,
as I am, so are you, something like that.
Yeah.
You say?
yeah. So here, I would always insert me. So I would say, and it came to pass in those days that Lynn came to Nazareth. And understanding again from Dr. Fuchsia Pickett, this is where I understood. I began to realize that all the words in the Bible, places, mountains, different things, all of these had to do with more symbolic things than they had to do with literal things, even though the symbols took on literal names and places. Many times it was a symbol. For instance, Ararat is a Hebrew word. But then they named a mountain after that Hebrew word, and you thought the mountain come before that Hebrew word. So automatically when I say Ararat, in my mind, I'm seeing a Hebrew word. And the Hebrew word is Ar, Tov. That would be how you would spell it in Hebrew. Ar, which is light. Ar, which is light. Tov has to do with timelessness in time. And so when I hear that word Ararat, what I see and what I understand from the ancient Hebrew is that it is a place in time where you start time anew. Did you get that? So it's where light, that's what the word in Hebrew or means, light. It's where light connects to light for a fresh start. That's where you are. You're always on Mount Ararat. And you don't even know that. Because in every moment of your life, you're at a place where light is beginning to connect to light. Because you're a light being. You don't even realize that. But you are, medical science knows that you're alive. Matter of fact, from medical science today, because of the technology, they begin to look at your body as though it is a color picture. Because it is. Because the organs resonate different colors inside your body. A medical dictionary will tell you that your body is a marvelous color show. As a matter of fact, when you go back and you look at Jacob wrestling with God, the word wrestle in the Hebrew hadn't got anything to do with physical grappling. It has more to do with me observing a phenomenal 4th of July show. That's what Jacob was doing. He was in awe of the colors, and the colors touched him in the marrow of his being and changed his walk. Nobody was fighting. That's ridiculous. Who wants to fight with God?
We call that an epiphany today.
So you see what I'm saying? When we learn, just like I'm reading this and I come to these names, and I have to stop and I've got to think, okay, are these names symbols? Are they signs? Are they pointers? And I say, absolutely. And so when I look at Nazareth, what do I think about the word Nazareth? What is a Nazarite? Well, who is one from Nazareth? It's no good. It's just, what did they say about it? Well, we know who he's from Nazareth. What does that mean? He's worthless. He's from, what does that mean? It's the physical body is an animal without the driving of God's Spirit. It's worthless. So when I came from Nazareth, it just said to me, I come from a worthless place, but I'm not worthless anymore. I'm valuable. Can you get that? So here we go. Physical, Lynn, came from a worthless place of Galilee. Galilee just simply means a wheel, a rotation. And it always, Galilee has to do with the symbology.
No, I'm laughing at something else.
Good. Symbology of the zodiacal wheel. The 12 spokes of the wheel. signs. That's the symbology. So when I see this word Galilee, now I'm talking about where did I come from? Well, I came from the symbolic wheel on February the 19th. I was introduced into this dimension. From a worthless place to this place. So you grasp what I'm saying? So now I'm totally reading this different than you've ever thought about reading this. Because all you've ever thought about was, I'm reading this to place it over somewhere in the Middle East to something that happened to somebody 2,000 years ago, and I don't really know for sure. Come here for a second on what it's about. But now what I'm doing is making it personal and first place. Because it's talking about you. Now, this book is a book about you, and if you can ever grasp that, you begin to learn that, then you may even fall in love with it, like I have. It's a book about you. It's a book about your life. It's a book about the journey that you're on right now. Not right, wrong, not good, bad. It's just where you are. So, Galilee, and I was initiated. Baptizo, that's the Greek word baptizo. It's a transliteration. Baptized is a transliteration. It's not really an English word. It's a transliterated word from the Greek. Like Ararat is a transliterated word from the Hebrew. Ararat. So this is a transliterated word. If I'm defining it for a person, I would say a better word to fit the word baptized is initiation. Can you go through initiation by being dunked in water? Absolutely. You can also go through initiation by laying in a coffin, which would probably be a very good way of going through initiation, laying through a coffin to symbolize you're dead. And when you come up out of the coffin, you raise from the dead. So if you can understand that, that's initiation into a different walk. Now I'm into a different path. And so this is what's happening. And I was baptized of John, and if I look at John, and I just realized what really has immersed me in my initiation is mercy, God's mercy.
Yes.
That's what John represents. If you look up the name John, and I'll do this a lot with different names, and I'll show you, the name John just simply means mercy. And it is by the mercy of God I live and I move and I have my being. God's not a judgmental God. We are taught by religion that God's up there writing the list, taking it twice, and He don't find out if you've been naughty enough. That's not Santa Claus, that's God. No, that ain't God. That's religion's idea of God. So he says, I was baptized in John, in Jordan. Jordan has to do with spread judgment, has to do with unclear thinking. How many of you ever heard of the phrase muddy Jordan? It seemed I was in a place where my thinking is not clear, it's foggy. You ever been there? Most people live there. Most of us just live there and hadn't recognized we're living there. So this is a opening of how that God is calling you and me into a different walk. And here's what happens in this initiation and in this walk. Verse 14. Verse 13, I'm sorry. Verse 11, I'll get to it. Verse 10. We got dunked in the river, didn't we? And we straightway come up out of the river, and guess what? The heavens opened up, and the Spirit of God fell on me and said, oh, I like you, you're good, it's okay with me, you're my child. Paraphrase, okay? Okay, I'm pleased. Verse 12 now. And the Spirit immediately, and the Spirit immediately, and the Spirit. It's not the devil, but the Spirit immediately, notice what it says, the Spirit immediately drives him into the wilderness, and he was there in the wilderness 40 days tempted. Tempted of Satan. Now when you read that phrase, tempted, the word actually simply are better said than tempted, because what you think of as being tempted is you think of being seduced. Huh? Is that what you think of when you hear tempted? I'm being seduced. I'm being drawn. I'm subtly being sucked into this thing. Just one more beer, that's all. Tempted. That's a real poor defining of this word. Actually, it means prove. I'm going to prove something. I'm going to prove it And the way I'm going to prove it is I've wired this house and I'm going to throw the power to it. And I have no problem with the fact it's going to burn down. I think, and I know the lights are going to work. The plug-ins, the sockets are all good. So what am I going to do? I'm going to test it. I'm going to test it.
The Message Bible says it's tested.
I'm proving it. What am I doing? I'm proving my word. And how did he prove his word? How did he prove his word? How did he do it? With Satan. Oh, wait a minute. You mean Satan somehow or another is proving this, that it's accurate? Huh? That's exactly what it's saying. You thought that it was saying, here is this arch enemy of God trying to seduce him. I'm going to entice him. I'm going to make him offers. I'm going to do some other things. Isn't that what you've always been told and what you've always thought? Now, this is not what's happening. It's because of a misunderstanding we have. And again, now I'm dealing with pretty much what I would call a Greek concept built in Greek mythology. And they've taken the Greek concept and dressed it in Hebrew codes. So now to really find out what this Satan is, I'm going to have to go back to Hebrew. I cannot go to Greek and find that. You can't. You cannot go to Greek and find Satan, because Satan is a Hebrew word. It's not a Greek word. Even though I may tell you a Greek story and try to incorporate this story with this Hebrew code, I can't do it. It's hard to do. Now let me show you what they did. Well, let me just tell you what they did rather than go to the whole long deal of going to it. In Luke chapter 4, they tell you this story. They changed this from Satan to the devil. That's what gets confusing for most people. Okay? They change it. And so it's the devil that comes. And then in Matthew 4, they do the same thing with the story. They change it to the devil. So what that does for you and me, it confuses our thinking. So now we think that the devil and Satan are the same entity. Or that's what we're taught to think. Rather than to really understand what is this energy system that we call Satan. So what I want you to do, if you will, I want you to go with me in your Bible to the first place this Hebrew glyph is used. The first place it's used in your Bible. So turn with me in Numbers. See, it's not used in Genesis. It's not found in Genesis at all. So the serpent, you cannot blame the serpent to be Satan. You can't do that because it's just not there. It's not. He didn't take an apple and seduce her. It's not there. Okay? But here's the first place, and you all have heard this story. I know you've probably heard it many times. You've heard the story of Balaam and his donkey, right? You've all heard that story. You just didn't recognize certain things about this story. And so I want to point out a couple of things about this story to you. In verse 22, it says, I'm in Numbers 22, verse 22, chapter 22, verse 22. It says, and the anger, it says, and God's anger, now here, what's your picture? Here your picture is God is mad, right? Huh? Is that what you get out of that? It says, and God's anger, this is the Hebrew word off. A-F. Off. The Hebrew word off means passion. And the word off, actually, in the meaning of passion, has more to do with a man and a woman in an intimate sexual act. That's what that word means. It means there is an intimate passion about something that nobody's mad. That's not what it's got anything to do with anybody being mad. It has to do with passion. There's something about passion. So God's passion is being raised at this point, in this place. So it says, and God's passion was kindled because he went. And the angel of the Lord stood in the way, and the angel of God. You can say this. The angle of God's energy, God as energy, that's what God is. God is energy. And God's energy comes to the earth in different angles. So it can be coming at a 15-degree angle. It can be coming at a 90-degree angle. It can be coming at a 180-degree angle. And all of these angles of energy got translated as angels. And we thought they were some kind of weird beings with wings. But they weren't. They were just the angles, the energy. Like right now, what would you say that the sun is hitting the earth at? What angle would you say? Because it's hitting the earth at different places by different angles. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so when the sun hits the earth at different angles, there are a lot of things happening at the same time. Energy is coming from a lot of different places at the same time, but that energy is causing life. That energy is causing things to be stirred. And so right here, this is saying, and the angel, or the angle of the Lord, stood in the way. I'm reading from King James, and it says, for an adversary. That's what the King James translation says, adversary. But it's actually the Hebrew word, Satan. So, let me do this. Let me put that word on the board right here. We'll look at this word quite a bit. Shin Tov Nam. That's the Hebrew word, spelling from backwards, spelling right to left, or spelling right and English backwards, whichever way. So it says here that where did this come from? Where did this Satan come from, this adversary? Did it come from the angle of the Lord? So you could say this came from God, didn't it? So where did Satan come from? I guess it come from God. Come from God. Okay, look down at verse 32, same verse. It says, and the angel of the Lord said unto him, wherefore hast thou smitten thine ass these 3 times? Behold, this is the angel or angle of the Lord, right? Behold, I went out to withstand. You see that word withstand? That word withstand is Satan. Now, you don't realize it and you haven't recognized it, but you have in your immune system, and that is what your immune system does all the time. It withstands the things that are alien to your health and well-being. It is an adversary to the things that are against your health and well-being. Yeah, and if your immune system is working properly, if it's doing what it's designed to do, and it's fully energized, it can do that. What happens is, it gets weak through our living, our dying. Many times that's the case, or the problem. So he says, and I went out to withstand you, because thy way is perverse before me, and the ass saw me, and turned aside from me these 3 times, So that's the first use. That's the first time that you will see that word Satan used. Go with me to 1 Kings. Just flip over a page or 2. I want to just show you some usage of this word in the Old Testament. You didn't know that it was here. You probably didn't realize that the word had been used this way, because you thought it just had to be the word Satan. You thought it would be something like in Isaiah, Isaiah 14, Lucifer. Right? Isn't that what you thought? It was Lucifer. Who's Lucifer? You are. Jesus was Lucifer. Oh, Brother Lynn. Good. There, say, well, all you got to do is read Revelation 22.
That's blasphemy.
Who is Lucifer? If you have an Amplified translation, turn in your Amplified translation to Isaiah chapter 14, read the footnotes at the bottom. And at the bottom, they tell you they cannot use the word Lucifer, because the word Lucifer is not Greek. The word Lucifer is not Hebrew. The word Lucifer is not English. The word Lucifer is Latin. It's the only place it's in the Bible. Isaiah 14. So, who is Lucifer? Lucifer is the bringer of light. That's what that name means in Latin. If I were to say that in Hebrew, I would say Helal. And you use that word, the root of that word, constantly when you say Hallelujah. What does that mean? It means I am excited and I am enthused by the light. So if I'm saying Lucifer in Hebrew, I say it Helal. If I'm saying it in Greek, I say it phosphorus. If I'm saying it in English, I'm saying morning star. The bringer of light. That which is introducing light. It's the lesser light that's reflecting the greater light. It's you. It's you. So see, we have this misassociation of words. And the misassociation of words has been purposefully propagated to us from religion. Why? In order to manipulate and to control you, to make you feel, number one, unworthy. If I can make you feel unworthy, I make you feel less than who you are. I can make you feel, sir, come to me. Because after all, I am the preacher, bless God. I am God's holy man for the hour and power. Or something like that, and you ain't. So, does that happen? It happens to us constantly. So I told you to go to 1 Kings. I'm sorry, I get to chasing the rabbit trail and I get off. 1 Kings chapter 11. I want to show you some usages of this word Satan. And then I try to make it full circle and show you how that actually, when you look at it from a medical standpoint, if I look at this from a medical perspective, that I begin to realize that it's referring to my immune system, which I thank God I've got. Amen. And if it's not functioning up to full power, what I would like to do is I want to get my immune system to function to full power. So whatever I can do to assist it or to help it become strong, healthy, and vibrant, then that's what I want to do. Amen?
Amen. So,
yeah, because it's my aid and my help. Okay, verse 14. 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 14. It says, and the Lord. Let's get clear on first off, what are we talking about here? Everybody say we're talking about the Lord. The Lord. Everybody say we're talking about the Lord. And the Lord. Who are you in your mind associating the Lord? You're talking about God? Talking about yourself? Yeah. That's the same thing.
it is. Yeah, it
Lord. What did Sarah call Abraham?
is.
All the more reason that wives should call their husbands Lord. So that we get position and priority in place. Hello?
Yeah.
You do know I'm punted, right? Everybody knows. So if you're a female, you're still Lord. So if we come back and we do understand the matriarchy of the ancients, we understand that the female does represent the giver of life, so she truly is the Lord. Oh,
Yes, dear.
amen. All right, we're clear on that. And even if you use this word Lord, which is this little word I've got right over here in the corner, and most people have been taught this Hebrew word Lord, they have been taught that this should have been this, but this right here is what Moses encountered on the mountain in Exodus 3. This is. I had a Hebrew professor from out west call me, got one of my CDs, it's been quite a number of years ago, called me and said, how is it that you are saying that the Tetragrammaton, this is what you call it, right, is not Yod He Vav He? I said, well, let me ask you a question. I said, did Moses have an encounter with the Tetragrammaton? He said, absolutely. I said, do you have a Hebrew text in front of you? Yes. I said, then turn right over to it. I'm looking at one right now myself. Exodus chapter 3. Look at it, verse 14. He did, and the phone got quiet. Silence, just total silence. I said, what does it say? Silence. I said, hello, are you there? Silence. Hello. Yes, I'm here. Yes, you're right. It's so difficult, isn't it? It's so difficult. I wasn't trying to prove a point. I just wanted him to see something. I am nobody to prove any point for anybody. I know me. I know the mess I've been in. And this is what it says. This is what Moses had an encounter. And you can probably see my sloppy diagram of these 4 glyphs. These are Hebrew glyphs. You can see my sloppy diagram, but I promise you, they're not Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey. They're not. They're a different set of glyphs.
Yeah.
And when you begin to understand it, this is what you encounter from now on and forever through every generation that is, and we don't know what that is. But it is a burning bush, I promise you that. It is I am, I promise you that. But we don't know what that is. And so when he says right here, the Lord, he's using this set of glyphs. This set of glyphs deals with carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen. This set of glyphs deals with north, south, east, and west. This set of glyphs deal with the 4 cardinal points of the zodiac. And if we begin to understand that, we will begin to realize this set of glyphs that got translated from the word Lord deals with the human carcass, the physical body. Just like Can y'all see that? Have I got my book in the way?
I've been in this year.
So, here we go. And the Lord stirred what? Up an adversary. The word adversary in Hebrew is Satan. Now, why do they use these words in English? Why do they use adversary? Why do they use withstand? Because those words can be accurately used for the Hebrew word Satan. Because again, if you are a house of 50 trillion cells and you've got 10 million of those cells gone awry and have collected in one place and tried to build a colony there, and in that colony they have diagnosed you and they said, it is truly a tumor. And you went berserk. Oh my God! All you have are 10,000 of these 50 trillion cells that are out of whack. If you get your immune system operating the way that it's designed to work, it will go to that place and it will become an adversary to those cells that are out of order. It will withstand those cells that are out of order. Because that is exactly what your white blood cells are all about. They are about your immune system. They are your Satan for your health and your greater good.
The biggest army on the earth is in our body.
Yes, yes. And you see, when we go back to understanding, we realize that people are never designed to be against people. We are not designed to fight against somebody because they have a different culture, a different color of skin, and eat food a different way. We aren't designed to hate and kill each other. We are designed actually to love one another, to embrace one another, to let one another be. That's what we're designed for. It's through religion and politics that they pit us against us so that they can become an elite and all we are their herd. And my God, they've got us fenced in. Hey, you don't have to say amen to that, but for me, I broke the fence down I said, I am designed to be free and to be at peace. And if I understand that, that is the Sabbath. And if I understand that, then I realize it's not a day of the week. I am meant on the Sabbath to have peace and freedom all the time. That's exactly why Paul said there is no Sabbath of the week. Why? He understood the meaning of a Hebrew. Of the Hebrew, it clearly tells you, if you can, that's the capstone. That's this right here. That's the Sabbath day. First day, second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, sixth day, Sabbath day. That day, folks, is a day designed for you to be at peace and to be at freedom. It had nothing to do with the days of the week. It has everything to do with the yawns of the created life of God that's inside you. Verse 25, same exact chapter. Verse 25 says, and God, now look here, we're over to this glib. God stirred up. Look at this word, stirred up. Everybody look at that word, stirred up. This word stirred up, actually in the Hebrew, this word would be better said as raised up. Raised up, and God raised up. Let me hold your finger right here in 1 Kings chapter 11. I'll come right back to it, and go with me to chapter 21 of this same book. 1 Kings chapter 21. If this gets to be too much, just let me know and we'll try to back down a little bit here. Okay? If you turn to chapter 21 and look at verse 25, but before I read that, let me ask you a question. When you read that in verse 23 where it says, and God stirred up, what do you think of when you think of God stirred up? Did you think of raise up or did you think of agitate?
Agitate.
That's exactly what I thought you would think. Agitate. That's how you would interpret that word. To agitate. To seduce. Would you think of it that way? To agitate, to seduce? No. That's okay. Look at verse 25. 1 Kings chapter 21. Verse 25 says, but there was none like unto Ahab, which did sell himself to work wickedness in the sight of the Lord, whom Jezebel, his wife, stirred up. That's the same word in English, but it's a completely different word in Hebrew. This word right here in English means to seduce or agitate. This word over here means to raise up. What does it say in back over here in chapter 11, 23? What does it say? And God raised up what? God raised up what? Satan. God raised up Satan. Y'all can't, I don't even know if y'all can say that. If you can say, God raised up. God did this. Why? God did this for God's greater plan and God's greater purpose. If you can realize that, that's what God does inside you. Because you and I are a part of God's greater plan and God's greater purpose. Okay, you're in 1 Kings. You go next door, you have Chronicles, 1st, 2nd Chronicles, and then, let's see here. I may be going the wrong way. I believe I'm going the wrong way. Instead of going to Chronicles, go back to Samuel. Go back to 1 Samuel. Go back to 1 Samuel 29. And you can just go on and on and on and on with this. And I want to, while y'all are looking for that, 1 Samuel chapter 29, if you don't have this little book, this is not a very big book. This book's got, 100 pages in it maybe? No, it doesn't even have that many. 70 pages. Yeah, 70 pages. Alvin Boyd Kuhn, The Lost Key to Scriptures. If you don't have this is a real easy read. Everybody, you can sit down and read this in a minute. This will revolutionize your mind. Completely revolutionize the way you think. Just this little book right here, The Lost Key It's like I have a saying or a thing that I continually go at. If you do not know the code, which is the key that unlocks the safe of the treasure chest of God, you ain't going to get in the chest. But if you have the code, you can unlock the chest. So let me read you something that he says here, and I'll read something. This is how his books look when I write all over my Bibles, the books. It's a mess what I do to them. Sometimes I go back and try to say, I can't even read the thing because I wrote on it so much. But listen to this. It says, if the Bible is a collection of dramas and allegories of the soul's life in the body, the soul's life in the body, you get what I'm saying? Here's the stick man. Soul representing the heart, in the body, that's where the soul is at, it's in the body, is an allegory and a drama of the soul's life in the body. The point of next importance concerns their interpretation. Everything of value ultimately hinges on this. And because it was ever of pivotal importance, it was right here that ineptitude, unintelligence, and chicanery crept in to ruin the operation of the entire scheme of instructions divinely instituted for human benefit. That's good for you. I love the way he does that. The loss of the symbolic codes and the consequent failure to grasp the proper interpretation sent the entire structure of ancient sagacity crashing down in tragic wreckage. That's a beautiful picture of where we're at and have been for 1,700 years. Because the ancient sages just went ahead and blindfolded themselves in ignorance and ignored the truth for money.
Chicanery.
The Bibles were written in a language the very existence of which has hardly been known since the days of its ancient usage, which was the language of symbols. That's this book right here. And if you don't read it that way, and you read it the other way, that we've been taught to read it as though it were a book of history, you'll completely miss what was the symbol talking about. Was he talking about my well-being here? Was he referring to me? Yes, absolutely. And so I wrote a note here. I'll just read you this. The soul's life in the body / temple must be one of the most important deposits of God that we have. However, for the most part of religion, we have lost its true meaning and purpose through the marring of ancient allegories and stories and mythologies and dramas into a literal history. This is the greatest mistake of the forefathers of the church. This one move from mystery to history has caused more division, more disharmony, more wars, more killing of innocent men, women, and children, even in some cases the destruction of an entire community or culture. Even today, Christianity will not honestly look at its own history and tell the truth. Everything of value hinges on the one grave mistake: to turn mystery into history. The loss of symbolic codes, allegories, mythologies, and so forth has set the church, including Judaism and Islam, the three major religions that constantly keep the world in war and turmoil. Now this is Lynn Hayes I'm reading. These are all my notes that I write around the side. Because I read him and I get ideas, it starts flowing, it's like water, like a river. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, the three major religions that constantly keep the world in war and turmoil on a path of destruction that it has been on for at least 1,700 years. What was given as a mythology or an allegory or a fabulous story or a drama was given as a divine instruction for the benefit and the betterment of the entire human race, and has been turned into a vehicle of destruction and division. And me, for one, I feel like that a part of my purpose for being in this earth in this time is to rewrite the wrong. Is to turn the train around that's going the wrong way down a mountain. And I realize the impossibility of that. It is impossible. But that yet again, the things that are impossible with man as his frailty are possible with God. So I'm coming back to the very things that I learned in charismania. It's just that I'm applying them in a different application. And I do believe we're going to reach the 100th monkey effect. I do believe we're reaching a time right now that the whole earth will begin to awaken to the truth of who we are. I do believe that we are reaching a time where we will open our minds to think again.
Amen.
Hallelujah. I really feel that we are on the threshold, even now as I speak. 1 Samuel 29, just look at this real quickly, a little story and analogy here. Then I want to give you my notes on Satan. Chapter 29, 1 Samuel, verse 1, it says, "And the lords of the Philistines passed on by hundreds and by thousands, but David," everybody say David, David and his men passed on in the rearward to Achish. Then said the princes of the Philistines, "What do these Hebrews here?" And Achish said unto the princes of the Philistines, "Is not this," everybody say David, "is not this David, the servant of Saul, the king of Israel, which hath been with me these days, or these years, and I have found no fault in him," everybody say David, "since he fell unto me unto this day?" And the princes of the Philistines were wroth with him. Everybody say David. David. And the princes of the Philistines said unto him, everybody say David. David. "Make this fellow return, that he, David, may go again to his place, which thou hast appointed him, and let him not go down with us to battle, lest in the battle he," everybody say David, "be what?"
An adversary.
He's Satan. You mean David was Satan? Oh my God, if you could just hear this in the spirit. David was Satan. Do you have any idea who David symbolically represents? I am not literally talking about a historical character that you are thinking about. I am literally talking about your blood system that is the life of God flowing through you. David, the name means divine love. Let divine love be your adversary. Let divine love be your Satan. Let divine love, which is that which flows inside your body like a river, let it become associated. Let it become that part of Satan that will give you health, life, and well-being. I know it's so hard to think. How can I embrace such a bizarre idea? It's everywhere. All you have to do is it's all through Scripture. I mean, it's just everywhere. So, Satan, Sheen, I'm thinking two different streams of thought here. Taught non. Sheen taught non, and actually there are two nons. There is a non that is 50, and then there is a non that's 700 in value, which the non 700 in value the non is 50 deals with dualities, but it's without separation, so it deals with humanity. But the non that's 700 deals with divinity, because it takes everything back to 7. We call that complete, perfect, or entire. And it adds 2 zeros with it to give it 3 zeros, so it refers to the realm of spirit or divinity. So when you look at this word, this is a 300 value. This one right here is a 700 value. When you begin to look at this word in Hebrew, and this is how I usually will take a word to try to get the value or the definition or the meaning of the word. That's why I have a lot of people call me and say,
where did you get that meaning? I looked in Strong's and it didn't say that. And I said, Strong was a Presbyterian and didn't know that. So no, you won't find it in Strong's.
Well, how do you find it? You find it simply by learning the Hebrew. That's all. It's really not that complicated. This number right here, 300, which is we talked about it earlier today. Shh. You remember what I talked about? Shh. When you think about that, what I hope that you think about is I hope you think of fire as it penetrates. If you can see a bolt of lightning shooting down into the ocean or into a lake and hear it, here's what it will sound like. Shh. Why? Fire and water merged together. That's who you are. You just don't realize it yet. That's who you are. That's what makes the miracle of a physical being. It's fire. And so you got to think about, that's the first blip in the letter Satan. And if you're going to make something evil or vile about it, I don't understand where you're coming from. You can't do it, because what we're talking about is we're talking about the divine light that is a mixture of milk, which is water. Everything on the earth is basically coming from water. So you all heard that. You got my CD about heaven. If you can understand what heaven is the waters above and the waters below that have a divine dance together. That's how you spell heaven. That's what the word simply means. Spell it in Hebrew. It's the waters above and the waters below. It's the supernatural and the natural. It's the divine and the physical. It's heaven and earth. You know, wonderful. And then the top, which is number 9. Watch this. Watch this blip, number 9. Well, when I look at number 9, what I think about is the feminine aspect of being. What does the feminine aspect of being do? If I come back and I understand what femininity is, look that one up. I understand it's the life-giving force. It's the thing that brings life. None of you would be here if it wasn't for your mama. Like it or love it. It's your mama. She brought you here. She gave you birth. And so when I look at the 9, what I'm thinking about when I look at the 9 is 50 trillion cells. That's what 9 represents. It represents a cell. It represents something inside you that is life. That's what a cell is. It's a living entity. It's a living thing that's inside you. And when 10 million of them or 10,000 of them, or when 10 of them collect in one spot, all you've got to do is take your foot and step on an old rusty nail, and immediately you'll see exactly what happened. You'll have 2 things will happen automatically, instantly. You'll feel it and it'll bleed. The feeling of it has to do with the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The bleeding of it has to do with the tree of life, which shows you that you're alive. You got both of them working at exactly the same time. Then that's the infect. Then the effect will be automatically these cells that are in your body that are designed to do and function different ways. They will go to that spot and they will, what will that spot start to do? It'll start to swell, won't it? Why is it swelling? It's because the army's going there. Because there's more army in that spot now than there were. They were dispersed everywhere. Now there's just thousands of these army cells. They go to that one spot. So it starts to swell and then it gets red. Why? Because they're collecting in that one place. That's Satan. That's your immune system working. What is it doing? It's working to go there where you stepped on that rusty nail to heal your body. And the sad thing is today, our immune systems are so weak that you got to go get a tetanus shot. Well, when I was a little boy and you stepped on a rusty nail, you didn't go to the doctor and get a tetanus shot. We did. We lived out in the country. The only thing you went to the doctor for if you broke your arm or broke your leg. And then sometimes you didn't go to the doctor for that. They'd pull the thing out, strap it down and say, well, you'll be all right. You know, that's how my grandpa looked at it. He said, you'll be all right. It didn't kill you. You'll You'll be all right.
Walk it off. You got it.
So we have this particular, the taught. We have this which is a sail, which has to do with life or giving birth. And then we have the final non, this word. And this final non, again, it deals with freedom, it deals with inner peace. I mean, can you hear me defining these glyphs, and can you find one horrible thing about that definition? This has to do with divine freedom. This has to do with that which God has brought you to, that place of freedom and peace. When you get in fear, you are in torment, you are in the wrong place.
Yes.
You understand that? You are not acting out of the place of who you are, and we live in fear. And don't recognize it and wonder, why is my immune system not working, and why is it not strong like it needs to be? I live my life in fear. I abuse my body. I'm this, I'm that. Yet God designed it to be perfect. God designed it to work the way it should work, and it will work. And I'll tell you, it will. It does. We are being living examples of this truth. We are getting our house in order.
Amen.
In a vulgar sense of the way, we're getting our shit together, or whatever, or getting rid of it. But it's happening. This is happening. That for me is exciting. My understanding of this, and so I'll read you what I closed with this afternoon, this morning. Satan is our natural pharmacy. It's your natural pharmacy. And if you want to call it an adversary, if you want to call it that which withstands, that's perfectly right. Because that's exactly what it does. And you do something to your body, I promise you, it will be right there. It was there all over the time, and you didn't know it. Satan is our natural pharmacy, works with us as our immune system to aid in our overall health and our well-being.
Our good army.
Amen. See, now,
Soldiers of the cross.
soldiers. I have a different view of that when I say that word cross right now. Moving right along, I did, I think, a 10-week teaching on this subject, which I just actually finished that teaching. I actually didn't finish it. I've been on it for over 10 weeks. Actually, I've been on it ever since the conference. Ever since the conference, I've been teaching on this subject. And I felt that because years ago, Gary asked me, or he told me, he said, you really need to put your teachings on the internet or something like that. And I said, well, okay, I don't know how to do that. And so Gary said, this is when Gary mailed out a monthly CD. Actually, it was a cassette back then. This has been 10 years ago, or longer. And Gary said, if you'll send me some of your teachings, I'll send them out. And so Gary started sending some of my CDs as his monthly CD. I mean, that goes to show you how unselfish the man is. If there ever was a man of love, that's him sitting right there. If there ever was a bishop of love, that's him. I'm serious. I mean it. I'm not trying to toot his horn. I'm just telling you. That's what he did. He said, if you did. And he would send his, and I think he was sending out to several thousand people at that point in time. Back then, because like I said, this is 10 or 12 years ago, I would send him some teachings that I did. And I did a series of teachings years ago. I think there were only 4 or 5 teachings that I did, and the title of that was, Who is Satan? And I believe it's still on my webpage. I think it needs to be updated. And I got more response from that than most anything I had said. And I thought, I haven't even visited that talk in nearly 20 years after the conference we did on the Divine Dance. And so I was impressed to go back and tweak that a little bit and come back and just add some stuff to it, because in 20 years, you might tweak things a little bit or add to it. And so I did that, instead of it just being a 4 or 5 week teaching, it's been going on, it wound up being at least a 10-week teaching. I thought, probably could become a phenomenal book if I could somehow or other get it compiled in words that could communicate from paper. And the problem of that is, Suzanne is a phenomenal, John and Suzanne are a gift of God to me. Period. Period. So Suzanne, she sits at the typewriter with that thing on, and she's trying to type out everything I'm saying, and then she hands it to me and asks me to read it, and I read it. I said, I can't read that. Surely I don't talk like that. But I do. You know, all these southern terms and vernaculars that I throw out there. But anyway, I got to thinking about that after the conference. I thought that would be a really good book, because I do not know where you can really get a good book on Satan from the real Hebrew perspective. I couldn't think that there is one. I have several books on Satan. I have a real good one that I give you, the Kersey Groves. If you've never heard of him, Kersey Groves wrote in the early 1900s, and he wrote a book about Satan. I think that was the title of the book, Satan. Kersey Groves' book, Satan. I think he wrote it around 1920 or so. It's a good book. You know, it's not some of the modern day stuff.
Like the Bait of Satan by the beer.
Yeah, it's not some of the stuff that you get today. I mean, so that is just such religious. And I understand that. I was there at that same place at one time. But anyway, those CDs will be your monthly CDs in a few more months. You'll start getting these CDs that I did. And I've done a lot more extensive work on those CDs that I have just done. I try to hit some high spots and things that are just foremost about it. But I went into a lot more detail on those CDs. So you'll be getting them over the next months. Okay? Any questions or any comment or?
I have a question.
Yes.
Going back to the book of Mark, when you were talking about the Spirit immediately, Jesus was immediately tempted, and you used the term proved.
Yeah, proof and test.
Could we also think of that kind of in the terms of like alchemy?
Yes, I would. I would. A lot of people who wouldn't really be familiar with what I would say true alchemy, when reading alchemy, again, reading alchemy and reading about alchemy is a mixed bag. Because there were people who got into alchemy who were trying to say we can actually do some chemical processes to this lead and make gold. And so that began to be a secret thing of people that were trying to do that. But when you get into the true essence, and chemically speaking or through chemistry, can that be done? I hadn't got a clue. I'm not a chemist. John May can tell you that, but I don't know that it can be done. But people had the idea that it could be, and what they began to say, man, if I could just learn to do alchemy, I'd get rich. I got plenty of lead. But my understanding of alchemy would be through Hermetic, the true ancient Hermetic teachings would be to turn the lead of my lower physical body into the divine essence of who it's designed to be. But not to try to take my physical body and say, well, I'm just going to keep this one and wear it forever. I do not embrace that idea of alchemy, because I feel this suit does wear out and should be taken off and changed. So I'm not opposed to laying this suit down. In Egyptian mythology, that's called westing, W-E-S-T-I-N-G. The word death doesn't even exist in Egypt, so therefore probably didn't really exist in ancient Hebrew.
Well, that's what I was thinking of, is that life is our, if I can use that term, alchemy, to test,
Divinely
prove,
change. Yes.
and we can be changed by it, or we can resist it and be diseased,
Absolutely.
bitter, blah, 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 right?
I would totally agree with that. Yes. And again, I wouldn't mix the idea of alchemy with just material gain.
Right,
Taking lead and now I'm gonna make a pot of gold.
I wasn't thinking.
I would say, I'll take my lower nature, and I'm gonna live for my higher nature, my divine being.
To be alchemized, to be transformed.
Alchemized. Hey, there we go.
Yeah. Who's
Alchemized.
that book, The Alchemist, written by Capello?
I bet you I've got 15 books that the title of them somewhere has to do with alchemy.
Well, that's a wonderful book. It's sold over 25 million copies. Came from South America. I thought probably everyone had read it. Just a little skin of the book. It's all about the alchemist and the story of this little boy as he goes through life and learns. In the end, it's about letting life prove your higher nature. And if you'll submit to it.
Good.
What's the name? It's called The Alchemist, and I think the author is Paul Coelho, Cohello, I'm not sure, but it's called The Alchemist. ALCHEMIST.